the issues affecting Asia's animals and the stories of the people working on their behalf. We'll be taking you on a tour of what's been happening lately in the animal protection space around Asia and also bringing you updates from our huge network of animal protection organizations and our many working groups. Welcome to the Asia for Animals podcast.
Hello and welcome everyone to a special episode of our podcast where we delve into the fascinating world of animal welfare and trade with a particular focus on Asia Pacific. I'm Ngọc Anh Nguyễn, lead coordinator from the AAFA Policy Coalitions, and today we have the privilege of hosting a distinguished expert in the field, Dr. Kate Littin. Dr. Littin is the chair of the World Organizations for Animal Health Regional Animal Welfare Strategy Advisory Group for Asia and the Pacific, and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our discussions. Kate is an animal welfare scientist and experienced leader in animal welfare, agriculture and food safety policies and regulations. She is a committed One Health, One Welfare advocate with a particular interest in supporting businesses to make positive change for nature. Kate serves on other advisory boards and not-for-profit organizations involved in conservation and animal welfare, in addition to her work with the WOAH Regional Animal Welfare Strategy Advisory Group. Today's episode is all about unraveling the story behind the World Organizations for Animal Health, or WOAH, its key operations, and its pivotal role in safeguarding the trade of animals and animal products while promoting the development of animal welfare standards. We'll also explore the key players in the areas of trade, public health, and sanitation, the four pillars of WOAH's operations, and how we can leverage WOAH standards to support good animal welfare in the diverse and dynamic Asia-Pacific regions. Dr. Littin, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining us today. To kick things off, could you share some insights into why WOAH was founded and what motivated its establishment?
Absolutely. And first of all, thanks heaps for having me. I'm really pleased to be here promoting animal welfare standards and the World Organization for Animal Health International Animal Welfare Standards. They are really important and they can be very well used in our region of Asia and the Pacific. So thank you. It's nice to be here. The World Organization for Animal Health, or WOAH, as you've said, was founded in 1924 as the OIE in response to a cattle plague called rinderpest, which was able to spread through the world through livestock transport and export for trade at the time. So it was realised by a number of countries that it would be helpful if they had an organisation that allowed them to have agreements for safe trade, basically. So they agreed to establish an organisation that was focused on fighting infectious animal diseases. WOAH continues to be governed by a World Assembly of Delegates. So, so each member has a delegate that forms the governance of the organisation. The national representatives then meet each year at a general session in May. So WOAH's work is to improve animal health globally, which it considers ensures a better future for us all, I guess. So its mission is to foster a global commitment to improved animal health and welfare and veterinary public health, which it does by working with policymakers and various organisations, as well as the governments from the members of WOAH itself. It states that this is so that livelihoods are transformed, economies boosted, and the world is safer and healthier for everyone. So you might know that concept or that idea as One Health. For some, it's One Health, One Welfare. And that's a really critical concept and it's agreed to by a range of organisations globally, including, for example, the United Nations and the World Health Organization. So for me, I guess a key strength of WOAH and why it is so relevant for our region is its focus on One Health. In WOAH's 7th strategic plan that it adopted, so its most recent strategic plan that it adopted in 2021, it says, contributing to global goals through improved sustainability of animal production continues to be one of the overriding objectives of WOAH. World hunger, zoonoses, and foodborne diseases still impact millions of people worldwide. 18% of the world's population, that's 1/8, is engaged in animal husbandry or in the processing and marketing of animal-based foods, and thus their livelihoods and their socio-economic status depend on the health of animals. To me, it gives a really that's a tidy way of describing One Health and the interrelationship between people, animals, and the environment.
Thank you, Dr. Littin, for that insightful overview of WOAH's foundations. Now, let's delve into the historical aspects. Could you elaborate on some of the key highlights of WOAH's work throughout history in safeguarding the trade of animals and animal products, as well as in the development of animal welfare standards?
Sure. And I'll also touch on the development of animal welfare and the animal welfare strategy under WOAH for our region, which is the Asia Pacific. So following its first general session in 1927, the OIE, as it was then, got to work on systems and processes for information sharing between members. They created things like the Bulletin newsletter, which is still carrying on today, and a range of agreements for responsible trade. So ways of identifying animal diseases and agreeing what rules should be for responsible trade. It continued to develop while the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, was established, and the World Health Organization was established, and it then went on to form agreements with these and a range of other organizations that are committed to the same goals. So that's also a strength of WOAH, is the network, the global network, and the strong partnerships with key organizations and partners around the world. It began using a 5-yearly strategic plan, so a planning cycle every 5 years, with the first strategic plan in 2001 to 2005, and we're currently up to the 8th strategic plan. So in terms of animal welfare, WOAH first adopted animal welfare as a priority under the first strategy for 2001 to 2005. WOAH members then adopted a standalone global animal welfare strategy in 2017. So that's more recently. So that was recognising that in order to promote and progress animal welfare, a standalone strategy, global strategy, would better support members to do that. So the strategy has the vision of a world where the welfare of animals is respected, promoted and advanced in ways that complement the pursuit of animal health, human well-being, socio-economic development and environmental sustainability. So you can hear again, there's that One Health concept. So the One Health, One Welfare concept that I mentioned earlier. I did just want to add, so within our region, in 2007, it was WOAH members realised that a regional approach to animal welfare would help focus attention on animal welfare for member countries. So the regional animal welfare strategy for Asia, the Far East, and Oceania, as our region was called then, became the first regional animal welfare strategy. So this was before the global animal welfare strategy was developed. So it's a very, I guess, a good strong history for us in our region to have WOAH's first regional animal welfare strategy developed. It was only possible through the support, a very strong support from the Australian government under its animal welfare strategy at the time, and other organisations that became involved and were able to support both the development of the strategy and then also the governance of the strategy through essentially a coordination group, which is now what we call the advisory group. So the regional animal welfare strategy for Asia and the Pacific, since it was then adopted in May 2008, regional animal welfare strategies for other regions of WOAH have now been adopted, and our strategy itself has been revised 2 times. That will be again reviewed probably in 2024 if members within our region can support it. So that just gives you a bit more on the history of the regional animal welfare strategy for Asia and the Pacific, as well as the global history for animal welfare within WOAH.
Thank you, Dr. Littin, for shedding light on WOAH's pivotal historical contributions. Now, let's turn our attentions to the present-day landscape. Who are the key players in the area of trade, public health, and sanitation that WOAH collaborates with to achieve its missions, and how does its collaborations impact their collective efforts?
Thank you. And I really loved this question because collaboration and partnership is a really important part of the way that WOAH works, and it's really important in our region. And it's also the way that I ended up being invited onto this podcast, right? So I met you through our relationship with a WOAH partner, the International Coalition for Animal Welfare. And the strength of those networks and what we can do together is really powerful. So WOAH's mission is to foster global commitment to improve animal health and welfare and veterinary public health worldwide. It has some different ways that it does this, but essentially it's promoting the coordination of animal health and welfare management, fostering transparency in global animal disease, and supporting national veterinary services to improve their capacity. So WOAH relies on and collaborates with experts worldwide to do its work, as I said, through its specialist commissions, expert working groups, ad hoc groups, and a network of reference centres. So within our region of Asia and the Pacific, the reference centres include a collaborating centre for animal welfare science and bioethical analysis, which is called the David Bayvell Consortium. So WOAH has a range of partners also through cooperation agreements, including the FAO, so the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, World Bank, SAFE, the Safe Supply of Affordable Food Everywhere initiative. Various animal sector and professional organisations are also really important, such as the International Meat Secretariat, International Dairy Federation, International Poultry Council, World Veterinary Association, and the International Council for Laboratory Animal Science. In our region, we have key relationships, including the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, or the SPC, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, and the Association for Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, and others. In animal welfare, key NGO partners for us would include the International Coalition for Animal Welfare that I've already mentioned earlier, ICFOR, the International Society for Applied Ethology, and also the Commonwealth Veterinary Association and other regional veterinary associations within our region. So WOAH also encourages the establishment of public-private partnerships. These are a joint approach where public and private sectors agree on responsibilities and share resources toward a common goal. So people sometimes call that a coalition of the willing. So you have people who want to contribute to the same initiative. They agree the goals and they will all provide resourcing for it. And WOAH says that the establishment of these public-private partnerships contributes to a more efficient and effective use of both public and private sector resources, and enable each sector to focus on activities most central to their respective responsibilities and capabilities. In other words, you can do what you're good at and what complements each other, and not need to attempt to do the same thing, which ends up costing more money and we get in each other's way. So that's public-private partnerships are encouraged. WOAH itself has partnership agreements, relationship agreements with several organisations. We also have these within our region. And then WOAH itself also has its network of expert centres and various expert groups, as well as its own staff. In summary, thank you.
Thank you for a very detailed outline of the essential collaborators in this field. Now, let's look deeper into the core of WOAH's operations. Dr. Littin, could you please explain the 4 pillars of WOAH's operations and how they underpin the organization's missions to safeguard animal trade and promote animal welfare?
Yes, I can try. So globally, WOAH is arranged into regions with regional offices in Africa, the Americas, Asia and the Pacific, Europe and the Middle East. And since 1990, WOAH has organised its work with 5-year strategic plans. So I've mentioned these strategic plans before. And the current plan is the 7th strategic plan. And I'm sorry, I think I said the 8th earlier, but it's the 7th. And it was adopted by members in 2021. So it covers 2021 to 2025. So I guess the core function, if you like, or some of the core functions of WOAH, it monitors the emergence and development of terrestrial and aquatic animal diseases, which is meant to support action before the diseases become established and spread. It works to create a strong network of people and organisations and a good knowledge base that can be easily accessed and shared. And the idea is for member countries each to have the tools and capacity and support that they need to equip their own veterinary services, so their own governments, to respond to diseases and to manage animal welfare. So that's really crucial to understand. So WOAH isn't, some sort of office. It's based in Paris, so it's not an office based in Paris that is somehow able to do this fantastic work right across the globe. WOAH's members, as I said earlier, countries apply to be members of WOAH, and then they must carry out certain commitments. And it's the members that need to be empowered and supported to carry out this work. That applies to animal welfare in the same way that it does for animal health. So a key way that WOAH supports safe trade and public health and economic growth is through standards that are set in the codes for terrestrial animal health and for aquatic animal health. And revisions and new standards are agreed by members at the General Session each year in May. Members also agree to manuals that give a standardised approach to the identification of diseases, of the diseases that are outlined in the terrestrial and aquatic health codes. And the standards are published in English, French, and Spanish, and anyone can access those. So they're on the internet and open access to everyone, not just members. And I think this is really important because it means you don't need to be a member of WOAH to be able to access those animal welfare standards for a government or for NGOs that are working to support governments or advocate to governments to adopt standards for better animal welfare. WOAH also supports a range of initiatives for disease eradication, such as for disease eradication, antimicrobial resistance, reduction of biological threats, food safety, and One Health, and publishes a range of information through its journals and newsletters and websites, and increasingly is supporting initiatives as well for animal welfare. So hopefully that just gives a basic answer to your question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your input. Could you tell us some more details about the animal welfare standards?
So I guess firstly, a critical point to note is member countries are encouraged to adopt the animal welfare standards that are in the aquatic animal health code and the terrestrial animal health code. So they're encouraged to adopt the standards, but it's not mandatory. So it's not an obligation that they must carry out. The animal welfare standards are recommendations that assist governments to establish animal welfare measures. So what this means is that a key focus, therefore, needs to be on offering support to governments to adopt the standards so that we can improve animal welfare in a sustainable way alongside animal and environmental health, community well-being, and socio-economic stability is what we normally say. So that's, again, that One Health, One Welfare approach. So just to say it again, the key thing is to support governments to adopt the animal welfare standards. In my view, the development and implementation and support for governments to implement these standards are absolutely critical to provide that underpinning for animal welfare progress, I guess, around the world, but especially in our region. So a really useful aspect of the animal welfare standards is that they define animal welfare and other key terms. And what this means is it supports clear conversations, and we can avoid debate on what might be contentious issues, such as whether animals feel pain, have positive experiences, or affected by the way they are handled, for example. So whereas for me, as an animal welfare scientist, I will say you cannot deny that animals experience pain and a range of positive emotions as well as other negative experiences. But unfortunately, not everyone sees it that way. And so when we consider things in this global setting, therefore, to me, it's a crucial step to say, this is the definition of animal welfare. We establish that in our legislation, and we then move to adopt the standards. The standards are based on science, and they're developed by expert groups before going to member countries for discussion and then on to adoption at the General Assembly. So they do go through a robust process before they're issued. So yeah, I just really wanted to make that point clear because, again, to me, the general principles that are in the code and the the fact that animal welfare is defined are really good starting points for establishing rules for animal welfare in a country. So both the Terrestrial Animal Health Code and the Aquatic Animal Health Code contain standards for animal welfare. There are general principles, as I mentioned, that apply to all animal welfare, and there are specific standards. The Terrestrial Code defines animal welfare as the physical state and mental state of an animal in relation to the conditions in which it lives and dies. And it contains more information on the definition of animal welfare in the code. And it contains recommendations for animal welfare during transport by land, air and sea, for the slaughter of animals and killing of animals for disease control purposes, for dog population management, the use of animals in research and education, working equids and killing reptiles, and for animal welfare and production systems for beef cattle, dairy cattle, and pigs. So other standards may be suggested, and people listening to this podcast may be aware, for example, that there has been discussion previously about standards for laying hens, so hens kept for laying eggs, or other standards have been proposed. These need to be developed and agreed by members, and so sometimes that doesn't go smoothly because we have members with different views around the world. So to me, that suggests two things. Firstly, it means the standards that do get adopted are very robust because they go through that process with the diverse views. And secondly, it means that some standards are difficult to get out or difficult to get agreement on because of those diverse standards. So I also mentioned the Aquatic Animal Health Code. This has recommendations for the welfare of farmed fish that encourage appropriate handling and housing. And often when people think of the World Organization for Animal Health, they don't think of aquatic animal health. So we don't think of farmed fish. But obviously, animal welfare is a critical topic for fish, for farmed fish as well. And so it's good to know that WOAH has standards for animal welfare for farmed fish as well.
That is a very detailed explanation. Thank you, Dr. Littin. Let's move on to a crucial aspect of our discussions. Dr. Littin, could you elaborate on how we can leverage WOAH standards to support good animal welfare in the Asia-Pacific regions? Additionally, could you tell us more about the significance of the regional animal welfare strategies for Asia-Pacific in this context?
I think three key elements are important here. So firstly, networks and partners, including animal welfare NGOs like the International Coalition for Animal Welfare, which is a partner of WOAH, as I mentioned earlier, and the Collaborating Centre in our region. Secondly, supporting governments and veterinary services to improve animal welfare through better animal welfare legislation and animal welfare initiatives. And thirdly, we really need to promote animal welfare more. So carry on what we're doing and do more to promote animal welfare in our region. The Regional Animal Welfare Strategy for Asia and the Pacific has 4 pillars that support all of these elements. In particular, we are going to work to make the standards more accessible for everyone, for example, through translation, webinars and workshops. And previously, members have translated the standards, for example, into, I think it was Mandarin, and also Parsi. We held a webinar this year that was really successful for introducing probably around 200 new people to the WOAH standards for animal welfare. So that's a fantastic achievement. Even if they listened and went away and didn't think about it again, at least they can say that they now know what they are. We're also supporting government officials to upskill in animal welfare, and we're focused on better coordination and collaboration to develop and implement the WOAH animal welfare standards in our region, and promoting animal welfare through our communications and other initiatives that we are either doing or that we have planned. So for next year, we're going to update the regional animal welfare strategy, or at least start to update it. We also want to hold an online forum, so an animal welfare forum for partners and organisations that is about supporting better collaboration. And I'll talk about that again in a minute. We'll hold a webinar on the nexus between animal welfare, animal health, public health, community wellbeing, environmental wellbeing, socioeconomic progress, the concept of one health, one welfare. And we're also going back to communications, better communications by social media on our website and through our newsletter. It's quite a challenge within our region to be able to collaborate on some, or sort of in some of the simplest ways. So I'm sure you will know, and listeners will know, even having the same social media platforms, for example, or the same web-based platforms is challenging for us. So we don't necessarily have access to the same internet, or to the internet at all, or to social media platforms, for example. Cost is a barrier for actually attending physically, face-to-face workshops and what have you. And language is a real barrier as well for us in our region. So English tends to be the language that needs to be used. WOAH has 3 official languages, which are French, English and Spanish, but English tends to be the language that we use for meetings in our region. And just the use of English can be a barrier for us in our communications. So I mentioned about the online forum. It would be great if listeners are interested in this. I guess we'd just encourage everyone to have a look at our website and get information about meetings, webinars, and potentially the forum there. If you belong to an organisation that has an interest in animal welfare or the use of livestock or animals where animal welfare is important, WOAH has a global animal welfare forum, and they tend to follow themes such as transport, for example, or sustainable production. And what it means, it's by invitation. So you have a range of organisations that represent sectors that use animals. So you can have industry organisations. You can have a range of veterinary organisations, professional organisations, including scientific networks and organisations, and responsible governments, as well as animal NGOs. And it's a fantastic opportunity to have all of those people in the same room talking about animal welfare, sharing the work that they are doing, and thinking together about what is important for animal welfare in our region. So we see that forum as something important for us to be working on and to hold it next year. If not, it will be the year after, but we hope next year. Finally, another priority for us next year is I will be stepping down from the chair. So I've been the chair of the advisory group since I think it was 2016. And we normally go on a rolling cycle of a 2 or 3 year term, depending on what's agreed. We were interrupted by a change in the way the strategy was developed. So it went from being a globally developed strategy through to a regionally developed strategy. And secondly, we had the interruption due to COVID measures that everyone in our region was subject to. So that meant I've stuck around for a bit longer. I've been doing the job for a bit longer, and next year it will be time to hand over to someone else. And we also try and make sure that the advisory group has really good representatives from governments and other organisations across our region. So we'll have another look at that next year and make sure that the region is very well represented. I did just want to mention something, though, based on our discussion that we were having earlier about collaboration. So just to be really clear, so when I talk about networks and partners, there are certain types of networks or I guess certain types of organisations that we want to make sure are involved in the animal welfare work in our region. We've talked about governments and the need to make sure that governments have the resourcing and the capability to develop animal welfare legislation and to run animal welfare initiatives. Scientists and the scientific networks are also really critical, and so too are the animal advocacy and professional organisation networks. So for animal advocacy in our region, but also globally, the International Coalition represents a number of animal advocacy organisations globally and in our region who formed the coalition in order to establish a relationship with the World Organization for Animal Health some years ago. So I'm sorry, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but it was shortly after animal welfare was recognised as a priority for the World Organization for Animal Health. To me, that shows the dedication and the foresight of the partners involved in ICFOR to understand that they themselves need to to establish a formal relationship with the standard-setting body, understanding the importance of setting good science-based animal welfare standards to underpin progress in animal welfare. So you then, there was discussion at the time, I remember, on what's the role of animal advocacy organisations in standard setting, because they're there to advocate for animal welfare. So isn't that biased in some way, in the development of standards? Yeah, and I think it's notable the work that ICFOR has done in this regard. So the work that the International Coalition for Animal Welfare has done in this regard to be recognised as a formal agreement partner with WOAH, which was originally undertaken by the World Society for the Protection of Animals, or now the World Animal Protection. And also the activity in our region that ICFOR and the various organisations who may or may not be members of ICFOR, including your own, Yopan, that do such good work for animal welfare in our region. And I think it's very important that has been formalised into these agreements and initiatives. Secondly, the science side of things. So the World Organization for Animal Health has an agreement with the International Society for Applied Ethology. This is a professional body for animal welfare scientists. It also has relationship agreements with other scientific organisations and with veterinary organisations, such as the World Veterinary Association and regional veterinary associations. these together are really critical to provide the source of advice and evidence for governments, but also to inform our animal welfare initiatives in our region. But not just the source of advice, also being able to carry out work that then advances is putting their work in a One Health, One Welfare context. So it no longer becomes, it becomes applied science for the good of One Health, One Welfare. Yeah. So obviously, as a scientist, that's a topic dear to my heart. But those are just two areas that I wanted to highlight, in addition to the need to support governments. Also having worked in government for a very long time, you need to do a lot of work managing the conflicting areas, especially in animal welfare. We say we have complex scientific, religious, ethical, political, et cetera, elements. Yeah. It's the job of the government to be able to take all of those into account in establishing the rules. So anything we can all do to help that is a good thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Littin. Let's continue to explore the critical efforts in combating rabies and promoting animal welfare. Now, I understand that the tripartite organizations, that is the WOAH, the World Health Organizations, and the Food and Agriculture Organizations, have an ambitious goal of rabies zero deaths by 2030. Dr. Littin, could you comment on this and its relationship to the WOAH's animal welfare standards for dog populations management?
Sure. So this is not an area of my own expertise, but I thought it's a very good example of a One Health situation, a One Health, One Welfare situation topic. So I mentioned earlier that WOAH supports a number of initiatives that pursue One Health goals, and this includes supporting eradication strategies for a number of diseases. So African swine fever, bovine tuberculosis, foot and mouth disease, peste de petit ruminant, as well as rabies. So I'm sure many listening to this will be aware that rabies is one of the most deadly zoonoses. That's a disease transmitted from animals to humans. And nearly all human rabies cases are caused by bites from infected dogs. I don't think a lot of people realise that, especially, we listen to stories about how you can get rabies by other means. And I think the fact that we still live in communities where dogs with rabies can have access to humans and to livestock and others and cause harm, we don't think about it unless we're in a country where that is an absolute problem. So we know that adequate public health resourcing and preventative treatment, including humane dog population management and vaccination, are crucial. And we have the tools we need to eliminate dog-mediated rabies, and it's completely preventable. And to me, that's a critical point. So that means we can achieve elimination of rabies. Also, what it means is that managing dogs is a critical part of that. And so, therefore, the humane management of dogs is critical for animal welfare in the control of rabies. So, the Global Strategic Plan 0 by 30 has made progress with increasing access to dog rabies vaccines, improved medical care for rabies cases, and also enhanced awareness of the way that rabies is spread and the need for humane dog population management. So this is a bit that I think is a cool story, so I'll keep it short. So some time ago, while I recognised that dogs were often controlled and killed using humane techniques as part of rabies programs, this spurred the development of Chapter 7.7, the Animal Welfare Recommendations for Dog Population Management in the Terrestrial Animal Health Code. So that was a bit unusual at the time, being something that went outside livestock animal welfare, if you like. But again, to me, it was a good recognition by WOAH at the time that here we have this one health issue. So we have an animal health situation colliding with a community impact with this disease, with this zoonotic disease, that has deep animal welfare problems arise when it's either not treated or when the treatment is not done in the right way. So members agreed to formulate a standard, an animal welfare standard, and it was adopted in 2009. So you'll realise that that's some time ago, so the standard is under review. It lays out measures that should form part of a population management program for dogs to improve dog health and welfare, public health and safety, and the environment, while it says taking related economic benefits and costs into account. So within the standard, it covers things like establishing responsible dog ownership, reducing free roaming dogs and dog nuisance, including preventing harm to livestock from wandering dogs, regulating commercial dog breeding, dog export and trade, which is another key topic that interacts considerably with animal welfare. Stabilise dog population numbers, contribute to the eradication of dog-mediated rabies through vaccination, and so on. And a range of organisations are involved in our region supporting programs where dogs are caught, desexed, and vaccinated for rabies and other diseases. They're rehomed, or euthanasia may be needed as a last resort, alongside support for responsible dog ownership where dogs are owned. And obviously, this is a far better option than free roaming dog populations subjected to an ad hoc inhumane culling protocol, which is what we may have seen before. So again, the highlight on the One Health case study and the highlight on the networks and partnerships that are brought to bear to solve this issue. So partnerships between governments, between NGOs, between the scientific and veterinary professions to achieve this rabies control. There are other examples, other One Health type initiatives, and also probably some that are relevant to our region as well. So working equids would be another example. So horses and donkeys, absolute critical part of life for many in our region. And so again, there is a WOAH standard developed for the welfare of working equids, recognising that it's unique in that it's focused on the community well-being, animal welfare and socio-economic progress, like a three-legged, a three-pronged matter, not separately. Yeah.
That's an excellent explanation of this case in point, Dr. Littin. And thank you once again, Dr. Littin, for your insightful and enlightening discussions on WOAH and its impactful operations, particularly in the Asia-Pacific regions. Your deep knowledge and detailed answers have significantly contributed to our understanding of the organization's pivotal role. Our listeners have undoubtedly gained a wealth of information today, and we're truly grateful for your time and expertise. And for those in our audience who are keen to stay informed and delve deeper into the remarkable work of WOAH, I strongly encourage you to visit their official website at woahs.org. Here you will find the most current and comprehensive information from the ongoing projects, research, and global outreach efforts. It's an excellent resource for anyone interested in learning more about the organization's vital contributions. Once again, Dr. Littin, we're immensely thankful for your participation in our podcast, and we look forward to potentially having you back on the show in the future to share more about WOAH's continuing advancements and achievements. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. And remember to stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the important topics that shape our work. Until next time, take care and stay engaged.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find everything you need to know about our work and connect with us at asiaforanimals.com. Tune in for the next episode. Asia for Animals Coalition, a united voice for Asia's animals.